What's up, Modern Craftsman listeners? I hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you caught up on your midweek episodes this week or last week. I hope that you guys are heading into the holiday season, looking to take a little bit of time off and enjoy yourself. Today, we have a very special guest. I hope you all are ready. This is one of the most special guests that we could have on this podcast. It is Douglas Duvall, formerly known as Puffin Media, now known as Motif Media. Doug is the producer for Modern Craftsman podcast, along with some other podcasts. He also is responsible with his partner for producing all of NS Builders content, video, audio, everything that goes along with the NS Builders Instagram page, YouTube page, all of that stuff. We briefly discussed this in the podcast, but Doug is a partner in Modern Craftsman. It's Nick, myself, and Doug. Doug manages the whole back end of things. Everything that that does not include Nick and myself sitting down on screen and interviewing guests, Doug has his hand in or is controlling the entire process. It could be shipping out shirts. It could be managing marketing documents. It could be lining up sponsors, booking flight. Doug handles so much of that. So if you are a Modern Craftsman listener, supporter, make sure that you reach out to Doug and give him a huge thank you. And I hope that he takes some time off because I know that he has his hands full with definitely Nick, a little bit of myself, but most definitely Nick. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast episode. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. Appreciate the support from Andersen Windows, from Buildertrend. And if you guys have time before Christmas, before New Year's, heck, just for any sort of gift or present to your significant other or yourself, you got to treat yourself. Hop on the website, moderncraftsman.co. Pick up yourself a nice package of American-made Modern Craftsman branded pencils or a Hive notebook. If you haven't checked it out, you can check out the store on the Modern Craftsman website. It's been a long year, a lot going on. Really excited for 2024. Thanks, Nick, Doug, Catherine, Anna, Andersen, Buildertrend, everyone who supported us this year, all the listeners. It's been a fun year. It's been a challenging year, and I'm really excited for 2024. So let's get into it with the man, the myth, the legend, Doug. He just popped back up on my screen too, and now he's laughing. We have two 2023 sponsors who have been with us all year long. We appreciate our sponsors. We wouldn't be able to do this without our sponsors, just like Doug. We'd be really, really hard pressed. So the first sponsor who's been with us all year is Andersen Windows. This fall, Andersen introduced their new 400 series energy performance panel. Rethink energy performance with this combination glass and insect screen panel, factory applied to a 400 series tilt wash double hung full frame window. Designed to meet Energy Star version 7.0 performance criteria in the Northeast, available in 7 colors with an optional PG50 upgrade. Have the confidence knowing you will getting the quality, aesthetics, and functionality, all with the added performance you desire on the window that contractors trust the most. Every new product introduced by Andersen is developed with the innovation, quality, and craftsmanship that has defined their brand for nearly 120 years. Learn about the difference by visiting andersenwindows.com. That's ANDEERSEN windows.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Buildertrend. Go beyond hammer and nails with Buildertrend's construction management software. This digital platform has everything you need to capture more leads, manage all products, and connect your team in one place. But if adding a new system to your process sounds like a nightmare, rest assured the Buildertrend team excels at getting everyone on board and ensures busy builders like you can get a peaceful night's sleep. How do they help your team get up to speed, you might ask? With hundreds of customer support reps, dozens of online courses, a 24-hour help center, and Buildertrend University, a 2-day in-person training conference held at headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. 2024 classes are open for all Buildertrend customers to register now. Buildertrend makes it easy to stay on schedule and on budget for every job while you get the full night's rest you deserve. I know that I need more than a full night's rest. Schedule a demo now or learn more about Buildertrend University at buildertrend.com/mcbtu.
We're in.
Professional. You've done this before, huh?
I have.
The backdrop. Do you have Sasquatch?
Yeah, it was the wallpaper we chose for to overlook Van.
That's a good one.
After I put it up, I'm like, I was supposed to stagger Sasquatch, not put him in a row.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so
First
you installed
time.
the wallpaper?
Yeah, and I made this. It's my handiwork.
Did you?
Yeah.
Damn, professional. You
Put
should
in
get a
a
job with Nick.
nice black light switch here. Absolutely not. I don't have any talent,
It's all right.
but
I don't think anyone's gonna notice non-staggered Sasquatch. So what's going on? What's it? Meg's birthday today?
Meg's birthday.
Happy birthday, Meg.
A couple weeks before or no, this will come out this weekend. But yeah,
So we have Doug Duval, formerly known as
Puffin
Puff
Media.
Daddy, currently known as Motif Media on the podcast. What's it, the second time?
Second time. Rarefied air.
Seriously. Well, they so Catherine, who does a bunch of like the back end things, reached out to me. She's like, "Do you have a guest in mind for is it the 19th? It's Meg's birthday, so Nick's not gonna hop on the podcast." And I was like, I wrote back Doug, and then I guess she must have like asked you, and then she like circled back again. I was like, no, I want to have Doug on. And she was like, oh, okay. I think that there was a mix up. I think that she was like telling me to ask you.
Right. Right. It's because I came to you with a list of people like, hey, let's talk to these people if you're interested. And you're like, I want you. Like I told you. Like,
Yeah, I already said
all right,
Doug. Like
let's
this
go.
isn't a conversation.
Let's do it.
Um, so you guys wrapping things up for the holidays?
Yeah, getting pretty close there. I'm trying to get all the podcasts done. So next week I don't have to think about anything, but I think I'll get most of them done this week on top of some other stuff I got to get done. But
So I recorded midweek already, and then
yep.
Catherine had emailed me, and she's like, "Is there going to be another one?" And I didn't think there was going to be another one, so there's not going to be one. So you don't have anything to do. You're my deciding factor. I didn't think I was going to get in to do one anyway, because by the time like Christmas is Monday,
Right.
and then we
And
go away, and it's like I'm not going to
th-
bring my podcast stuff with me.
exactly. This podcast goes live Christmas Eve. So if anybody listens to it,
Oh, dude, everyone's going to be sitting there waiting for Santa
just
Claus
waiting.
listening to this.
The Jason Hibbs, his podcast went live the night of the Super Bowl, and he when the thumbnail got posted that night, he's like, "Oh man, all those people are gonna miss out on the Super Bowl listening to this."
Yeah, nobody's gonna watch the Super Bowl because they're gonna be too interested in Modern Craftsman podcast.
Like, that was the perfect response to that.
So you're editing other people, or you're like, what are you doing for other people's podcasts right now?
So I took on Brad Levitt's podcast, formerly known as AFT Construction Podcast, and he rebranded to Brad Levitt
Is that
Podcast.
recent?
Yeah,
How come?
10 weeks ago. He just wants to separate it from AFT, I think. Keep AFT things, over there. And this is Brad Levitt. I think that was the big, nothing specific.
Is there going to be an AFT podcast?
No, that's what it was called before. He just wants it to be his thing, Brad
Yeah,
Levitt Podcast.
that's what I meant. I didn't know if he was like making room to separate the two and have somebody do that, or
No, I don't think so.
yeah, I didn't realize that he rebranded and changed. Good for
So,
him.
so very much like you guys, he goes in, records on StreamYard, like you guys do whenever he wants. I'm not involved with that. I go in, uh, download everything, cut in his ads, cut in clips, export, upload, update his website, um, and send him an email with all the links, and he just posts what he needs to post, and that's it. Everything
So
else
you're
is on me.
breaking it down into the clips that he can then publish, similar to what you do with ours?
Yeah, so I do
And is that you're doing that yourself?
yes. Yeah, yeah. And I also took on, the Curious Builder podcast in July 1st.
Just
So
Mark Williams, right?
Mark D. Williams, Custom Homes.
Is there a lot of editing in that?
In his podcast?
Yeah.
Uh, no. Why?
I feel like he's off the wall.
He he's full
Just
of
let it
ideas.
just let it rip.
Yeah, he's got some good ideas. You know, he's
He's got some good
he
ideas.
does. He's constantly bouncing ideas off me, and which is a good thing. It's good to kind of
I feel like he's in the middle of the podcast and then he's also having a conversation with you while podcasting at the
so
same
what's
at the
what's
same time.
what's different about Mark's podcast is he's trying to do most of them in his home studio, which presents anyone that's tried to do podcasts not like this, where you're in New Jersey, I'm here, your mic
Oh,
is
he's
never.
bringing people
He
into his
brings
house.
people, yeah, he brings people into his house. He's got like a mini studio. And there's no way your mic is gonna get picked up on my mic and vice versa because we're in, you know, we're remote.
Yeah.
So that is something like studios have to have to worry about. That's why studios are the way they are. People are spread out the way they are. So there's a lot of things that go into a studio you might not necessarily think about.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But he's got a guy locally there in Minnesota, Ian Studio Americana, I believe. There, he's kind of handling that stuff, and so it's a little different. Still same idea. He records in Streamyard, but yeah, he's figuring out. He's a young podcast.
Are
He's
those the only other 2 you're doing right now?
yes.
Would you like to do more?
I think we can take on two more right now, and then from there, I definitely need another, assistant to help with that.
Do you think that what you're doing with the podcast right now is something that you could train somebody to do and it doesn't have to be you?
Yeah, yeah. So Paul, someone I hired almost a year ago, he does videography.
Yeah.
Uh, he's on the job sites pretty much daily, Nick's job sites, and as we expand into doing more work for other builders and trades and such, Paul's the guy who's going to be on site doing the videoing, and
I was
I'll
gonna
be there
ask you
more as
that.
a director slash assistant.
And will you always plan to stay, like, in the office? I felt as though you enjoyed doing the site work type of things
I
more.
do, I do. So it's a great example. When I came down with you, uh, I flew in to New Jersey in the morning. We shot 2 videos, and I flew out of New Jersey that night, or Philly, but,
Yeah.
just over the line there. Um, and then that is what I like kinda self-contained. We in and out. We had it all planned. I had it all planned out in my head. I know you were probably like, "What the fuck are we doing here?"
Yeah, I
Sometimes.
didn't as much.
But you wrote the script.
Yeah.
I just had the shots in my head, and I shared them with you. Um, it was probably just words on paper, but, um, I enjoy that where it's kinda precision. I know what I'm going in for, I know what I'm getting. Something with Nick and Ennis Builders, it's a lot of you kinda have to let the shots come to you, 'cause a great for instance, Paul, is from Poland. He returned home to Poland this past week.
Wait, he's from Poland?
Yeah,
Does he
yeah.
have an accent?
No. No.
I was gonna say, well, so I only met him at, Cape Cod Panel,
Yep.
and we didn't really speak much except for when he was yelling at me when I was rolling across the conveyor belt when that failed shot took place, but
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't feel like he spoke like he was from Poland.
No. I think I don't wanna speak for Paul. I think he came over here when he was young,
That
but
makes
he's
sense.
kinda been back and like, he went to college in Poland, like, he's kinda been in both, the US and Poland, I think, back and forth his whole life. Not speaking for Paul, I cannot confirm that, but I think that's the case.
Only thing I can confirm for Paul is that he does not like action shots of me rolling across a conveyor belt with a prefabbed wall. It's the only thing I
Uh,
can confirm.
yeah, but, I don't even know where we're going with that.
So,
Oh, oh,
basically,
oh,
like
oh, I know. So he's out of town. So, I there was something we needed to get on one of the job sites last week, so I went in like I used to, and it was a classic case of they didn't get to the thing I was there to record all
yeah,
day. So I sat around. I got a few things done on my laptop, but there was no internet in the job site. So I couldn't, kind of finish that job and like I couldn't start this other thing. I don't know. It wasn't a waste of a day, but I sat around all day waiting for something to happen that didn't happen, which I do not miss.
yeah.
I feel like my time is better used surgically. Like, all right, I'm here to get this done, right? So, and that's not to say Paul's time isn't worth it, but he's getting shots of everything that's going on and so on and so forth. And he might be jumping back and forth to different jobs. And in this case, I was waiting for something specific. It didn't actually happen till Saturday, I guess. It was a Friday I was there. Um, but
So it's
yeah,
more with Nick's stuff. Obviously, in a perfect world, you have something and a plan in place, but a lot of it is more so, hey, let's film this and then see what we can make out of it, like working backwards.
yeah. Well, no, no, kind of. The sense is like we're not disturbing the work that's going on.
Yeah,
We're flies on the wall. So like I could have went in there and be like, "Can you guys do this thing first?" And it would have screwed them up because it was
yeah,
essentially something they had to do last. So that's not what we do. We're not going to go in there and screw up. Like that's an active job. That job has a deadline. Things need to get done, so on, you know what I mean? So we can't just go in there and dictate a shoot.
yeah. And that's different from like everything that I've done with anyone has been hired content to produce something specific. So a lot of it is, even if we're not at that part of the job, getting to that part of the job, even if we have to do things over.
Yeah.
Um, which is challenging, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm getting paid for this and it makes sense and you're getting the content out of it and you're building the partnerships and everything else. So it does make sense. But when you guys are filming as much as you are, it's not like you're going to be like, hey, we're here for the day. Stop doing this. Or can you just do that one more time or
Right.
hold that in this position where it's like, nah, I want to get to work.
Right. And the most we'll kind of interject is like if it like you posted the video maybe it was a couple weeks ago, you scribed a piece of baseboard and you like slid it into place before you
Yeah.
glued it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we might if somebody was doing that exact thing, we're like, "Hey, maybe we ask you to do that 2 or 3 times." Something that's not going to affect, you know, the outcome or anything. If that was glued and screwed, it's in. We're not
Yeah.
we're moving on. We're not interfering with the overall, you know, job.
And
That's that's the
how
goal.
did you meet Paul?
Craigslist.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know if Craigslist was still a thing. I thought that was
Yeah.
just for like people who like wanted
It's
to
got
engage.
definitely has got a bad rep. So the reason why I use Craigslist, the last time I was on, we don't have to rehash my
It's all
history.
Polish people.
No, no. We worked when I worked at the place right out of college, small ad agency. They met like one of the best web programmers. the best web programmer I know off Craigslist. Um, it just it was very transactional for him, just like that's where he got a lot of his work. And he still works there today, and that was like, I don't know, over 10 years ago. So I just in the back of
I
my
feel
head, like,
I feel like that's my point though. There was a lot of shit you do on Craigslist over 10 years ago that like now I'd be like,
I know,
I don't
but
know.
hey, it worked out. You know, he responded super quick.
So
Actually,
was he just working for himself at that point?
yeah, him and his wife just moved here from Maryland, or they've been here about a year now. Um, and he was looking to kind of get back at it, and yeah,
So
I,
what did you actually like what was the job ad that you had or that he responded to or that you reached out to him? Like what was the description?
you know, videographer, uh, focused around construction. You know, I probably referenced like this old house and that sort of thing,
What was his
just to
experience?
give. He did a ton of videos for realtors
Mm,
and just overall video production. I don't really care if you've never been on a job site.
yeah.
That's stuff you can learn. It's more about, he has a good eye, and he cares about good quality video. So that was kind of the big ask, the what I was looking for.
Do you feel he has a similar style of shooting to you?
No, he's better. He's just got a I think he's got an eye to make things look. He's just got a better eye for composition. And
Yeah.
that's not to say I'm a schmuck, but to me he's better. He's a
More
step
of
up.
like an artistic.
Yeah.
It's funny because you guys posted something. I forget what it was. It might have been the floor finishing one. It was something, and I was like, "Yo, Doug, this is so sick! Like, great work." And you're like, "That was actually Paul." It's like, my bad." But I mean, you had to hire Paul and everything. Like, you have to take some credit for it. But I don't know if that's like when I noticed. Maybe it just stuck out to me a little bit more.
Mm,
Um, Maybe that was me, like, subconsciously noticing something different, but I don't know. I guess maybe I asked my first question because it seems as though it was a relatively seamless transition from you doing all of that to him doing it now and then blending it with your editing, like, unless you have a very trained eye,
right.
maybe somebody within the industry, I don't know if you would be able to tell that it's, like, a change happened.
Yeah, and I think probably the consistent thing is me still in the editing seat. One second, gotta introduce you to someone.
Oh, we got babies? Hey, what's up? Oh my goodness, he's handsome.
You
What's
say hi.
up?
Hi. You
How
say
are
hi.
you?
Look, say hi.
What's up? How
Hi.
old is he?
He's 18 months.
What's up? What are you doing?
You say ball. Ball.
Ball.
Ball.
Ball. You're
Ball.
handsome. He's really cute.
Bah.
Ball. Good job. Are we interrupting your nap time?
No, he's up. Oh, you want
Like
it
I want
back?
it back. Ball.
Oh. Ball.
What? Yeah, I hear that.
Okay.
Ah, you excited for Santa Claus?
Oh, I don't know if he knows about Santa Claus, but he's excited.
It's excited for ball.
The tree's up, lights out, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That's exciting. I feel like this is the age where they start getting it some. What? He's so cute.
I'm gonna send you back with mom. Yeah, straight up. Mom.
He's like, "Get out of my room."
Whoop. Just close that. Thank you.
He said, "Fix my Bigfoot and get out of my room."
My camera follows me. There we go.
Oh, I was wondering what was going on.
There we go.
Yeah, I felt like it was and I guess that would have a lot to do with your editing, but like you wouldn't notice that you handed off the reins to somebody else. It probably would be more obvious if he did a really shitty job filming everything. But I feel like it
Yeah.
was a really clean transition.
And if anything, I've particularly in Site Visit, which is Nick's main series on our YouTube, I still kind of have a heavy hand in that
Yeah.
where, you know, I'm there when we shoot the episode with Nick, and then I'm kind of telling him the types of shots I want at this, but at the same time, I'm like, he gets all the detail shots and the shots he wants to get. But there are some shots that I still kind of I like that I would have shot that he might not necessarily, just to kind of, I don't know. So it's there when I'm editing, I guess,
Yeah.
um, for lack of a better term.
Do you Now that he is on board, are you guys able to produce a lot more work, or are you working less? Has it just freed you up a fair amount to be able to do other things?
Yeah, I think it's freed me up to, like, I wouldn't have been able to take on Mark's podcast or Brad's podcast, and I'm working more. Advice that I've learned from the Modern Craftsman, Brad Levitt podcast, and the Curious Builder, Mark's podcast, is you need to work on your business, right? That is a consistent theme across all three podcasts. Almost on a weekly basis, I hear that advice from all of you. So I'm making a very like a very direct effort to do that. I've joined a networking group, which I'm interested to see if it kind of yields any sort of results. But um, doing a lot of different things, um, and
S
working on motif as a business, and mixing that in with the day to day work.
Well, yeah, because at first glance, right, it's like, all right, so now I brought somebody in. If it's not full time, like it's an added cost to the business. And it's like, well, maybe I'm working a little bit less, but are we able to produce enough of an output to cover his costs and then also make money on top of that? And how does that work? How are you transitioning that? Like, has bringing him on and then getting the other two podcasts been lucrative enough to offset his cost and make money?
So he's part time. I want him to be full time. He was full time for a few months, but we had a big job fall through, a big contract fall through, unfortunately, um, and that was probably poor foresight on my part. But so he's been part time for the majority of his employment and making moves to make him full time. But yeah, I think at this point we are profitable.
So
Um,
it makes sense. It's not like something
yeah,
that you're just like, I need this help to get my head above water, and you're just like
right.
making it work.
If he'd remained full time, we were burning, cash we didn't have,
Yeah.
and so making him part time made it possible, and his willingness to do it. He has a young child, so I think that helps him. I think he is okay with it, so he can still spend a lot of time with his kid, and he gets out of the house, Monday through Friday. But I think he does want to be full time. I want him to be full time, and that's 100% the main goal of 2024 is to get him full time.
So what do you think you'll have to do that? Land a couple more contracts, or
I
like,
Yeah. So I just spoke. Actually, I was speaking with Nick and our accounting team this week, yesterday, about like what does that look like a month to get him there. So I have a number in my head, uh, and a goal of what that looks like to clients or contracts, to get us there. So yeah, there's a
do do you think that it's possible within your own network right now, like through Modern Craftsman and lining up enough content through that, or are you going to be looking more so for like projects that are completely separate from what's under your umbrella right now?
I'd love it to all be within the umbrella currently, but, I'm open to both avenues, you know?
Yeah, I think, like, moving obviously, we did a fair amount with Andersen this past year, and then I had some stuff that you helped me out with. I know my house build is coming up, but
Yep.
I would love to be able to do more of the one-off stuff and create, like, unique pieces of content. Even the crap that you and Nick put out, like that floor finishing video where you're showing the finish being applied to the hardwood, and I'm like, "How are there not hardwood floor vendors and companies knocking down your door to be like, "Can you make this for us?"
Right. Well, I think there's this weird disconnect with, and this is speaking from my experience. I don't know if this is the case. I could be wrong. Um, Brands like, let's just take Floor Finish brand. They work more with DIY people
Yeah.
because DIY people, as soon as they get the contract, they can get that done. Like, "Oh, I'll just refinish my floors."
Mhm.
Like, they pick a room or their house, and they get it done fast, and they can turn it around very quickly, and I think that's maybe more of a priority for these brands.
Does it cost the same amount? Like, are they charging less money?
They might be. That might be part of it too. But, like, if a floor brand reached out to Nick, we need to have a floor in a project to do it,
Yeah.
and that might be 6 months, or, it might not be in a month or next week, it might be down the road, right?
Yeah, but, like, I get it, and I get these sponsors and these, like, businesses, it's the ad companies that come to you, and they need a certain timeline to create that, but, like, I think big picture for these companies and paying to have, like, content that's not necessarily for a specific product within a specific, like, calendar range of dates, like, the stuff that you create could last years.
Right. Yeah,
And rather than like, "Oh, we have this DIY who's fitting this ad campaign that we can get it made within 3 months and pump it out, and then it's not relevant within 6 months." I just feel like you guys are creating way more timeless marketing material that could be like, could live with them indefinitely.
for sure. No, I definitely think they're probably focused on those short-term goals, numbers. Um, I don't know. It's hard for me to speak for them. That's just kind of what I've gathered. Um, and I've spoken with other builders and other people that kind of do brand deals, and that's just kind of the general consensus I've taken away. But I don't know, like Nick's YouTube, a video the first week might get 5,000, but that video is just only gonna, in 5 years, it's gonna have 50,000 plus. Like, it keeps getting it, like you said, evergreen.
Yeah.
Whereas Instagram is kind of the hit miss, probably within a certain time frame, and the YouTube stuff is, we've hit 100,000 subs a couple months ago. It's one of our bigger channels. I think the Instagram's still bigger, but I think it's right up there with engagement.
I even look at, like, what you made for me a few months ago, and we I mean, we weren't 100% aware of the other people who were included in the campaign until things started rolling out, and obviously, we don't know what people got paid and everything else, and, like, the budget for us was healthy, and I just look at the content that we created with them and the longevity of that content, and it's like you're paying the money. Why not? I guess if they're just looking for numbers, it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, it's like if you're paying for that stuff, like what we made for them could live for 5 years, 10 years.
For
They could
sure.
live for as long as they have that product in the same, like, canister that
Can
looks the
Right.
same way.
Right.
But, like, a lot of the other stuff, it has a shelf life on it because of the technology, what it's filmed on, like, what it sounds like, where it's like, you get views right now, but like you said, in the long term, it's not gonna live up. Like it's not gonna hold up.
Right.
And that doesn't make that much sense. I would like an opportunity to create like more timeless content like that. And obviously technology changes so fast right now that it's going to look dated within a few years, but I just feel like you have a better opportunity with that than paying somebody a lot of money to film something on their iPhone and then just like pump it to their followers.
Right. Honestly, I think there's been a bit of a plateau, not necessarily in video quality. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like you can get an 8K camera, but your ability to distribute that 8K camera and someone being able to truly appreciate,
Not on their phone.
it's not going to be on their phone, probably not going to be on their computer. It's probably going to be on some rarefied monitors and TVs at home. Um so like I think everything's pretty much in the 4K, safely in the 4K realm right now. I don't see a big jump to 8K. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. Tomorrow everything could be 8K, but I think if 4K has been around for, I don't know, basically 10 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been around. So I think there's been a little bit of a plateau on there just because every time there's this huge jump to the next resolution, there's a serious amount of time before everything's caught up to it. Um, so because 1080p is still very relevant, which is a step below 4K.
So what are
It,
iPhones filming?
I think iPhones can film in higher than 4K, but they're definitely filming 4K.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I used to pay very close attention to all that. It's great. It's cool. I don't really care. My phone can do 4K. I got a Pixel 6, a couple
So
of years old.
I mean, like what I found when you came down to visit me, what is really impressive, and I'm curious how it works out for you, is like you said, you flew in, you had a carry on, you had no luggage, you didn't even have a tripod. I think you packed your drone, a camera, some audio equipment, but like it was very lean
Yeah.
and you produced a very high quality content in a short amount of time, and obviously you had to go back and edit and everything else. um but like where does that put you in the market? Obviously there's people who are producing lower quality content and people who are producing higher quality content, but the content and the quality and the caliber that you're able to execute within the market and like how lean you are, where does that put you in the market? Do you use that to be more profitable because like you're so lean and efficient, or do you use that to come in at a price point that's like really enticing to customers?
I think it's the latter. I think we come in at a very affordable rate. Um, it's still profitable to us. We have the ability to do very high end work. We haven't marketed ourselves in that fashion, just because we're kind of still in this niche of what we're doing in the builder trades area, and that's ultra high end. I just don't think really speaks to
Well, also,
anyone.
where's that gonna live?
Right. We have the ability to do it all, really. It's just, I think we're in the mid market. We're very approachable. Um, like you said, we're nimble. Like with schedule, with our equipment, we're not pulling up with a semi truck on your quiet little street, so we have power to with a crew with 25 people.
Yeah.
Right. There's a crew of two, maybe three of us, and we're probably in and out in a half day and or in a day. Um, but
That I get that right now with a lot of the brands. Like my wife worked for URBN, and they would rent a place and then they would set up for their shoots, and that was going in their magazines and their websites. And it was like a whole production. I understand that, but for us, like, what is the advantage for somebody bringing an entire crew in and a semi to create content that even if it's on their website, somebody's viewing through their, 8 square inch phone? Like, why are people willing to pay that when you could have something that's just about as good at a much lower price point and with, like, just so much easier to produce?
Right. And I think that's right where we're kinda living is, like, we're probably at if you say high-end production, like a huge crew, all that is 100%, we're probably coming in at 95%, right?
As far
9
as what you're delivering.
right, 90, 95% at a fraction of the cost. And that high ultra high-end production has its place. It's never gonna go away. It's great. It's why there's some videos you watch and you're like, "Holy, holy shit, like, that's amazing." Chances are it's a, very well produced ultra high-end production, but I think we're very close with that holy shit factor at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we ended up doing with MT Copeland and, like, the ad like, the budget that they had for all of that production. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you're getting that, and I think that that's very similar to what we do as well, like, to get to the 95% cost X amount, and then to get that additional 5% isn't 5% of X.
No,
It could,
right,
like,
right.
be X again, or, like, 2X to get
I
there.
think in many cases it's probably 10x. I mean,
Yeah, to get
honestly.
that extra, like, 5%, and then, like, at what cost? At what point does that make sense if,
Right.
like, it's not the actual film or documentation that's making money?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, MT Copeland stuff was incredible. Ken did a series similar to you, so I got to go out there and talk to them and pick their brain. They had like a 7 or 8 person crew. The director was remote because this was all during COVID, or at least Ken's was. I don't know about yours.
No,
Um,
ours was we were out in Austin, like, in a full studio.
oh, well, they came to the shop,
Yeah,
um, which, by the way, I was gonna just sit in Nick's seat and do the podcast in Nick's studio.
yeah.
Yesterday, the storm blew through. It was like ultra super high winds. The telephone pole behind the shop fell over. We didn't lose power, but our coaxial cable, it's still there. I was in there this morning. The coaxial cable for our internet, just our suite, all the other ones have underground, is holding up the telephone pole from falling into the parking lot next door.
Oh god.
The cable guy pointed it out to me yesterday. He's like, "I can't do a thing. The coaxial cable is literally holding up the telephone pole from falling into the neighbor's parking lot."
So Nick would
So
have had to cancel the podcast anyway.
he couldn't have done it from the shop. I got
Yeah,
all the I got the remote set up here in my house.
he posted that picture of his job site that the tree came down that he was, like, supposed to be protecting. Did you see
Uh,
that?
I did not
I guess,
actually.
like, on the one spec, there's, like, a tree that they're supposed to be protecting, and it completely
No.
broke in half and then, like, fell on all his sample material.
Oh god damn, I did not catch that.
Um,
Damn.
yeah, he, a lot of stuff happens to Nick where, like, it would be the end of my world, and it's just like, "Oh, well," like, I didn't even hear peep about that, where I would be like, the first thing I would be doing, be
Uh,
reaching out to Nick and be like, "You wouldn't believe what just effing happened."
Same. I'd text you guys, I'd text my wife, my friends,
Yeah.
like, "Look at this bullshit."
He's just like, "Whatever. I got
Yeah.
something else to do. I'll deal with it later."
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But it
Um,
it it came through fast and furious yesterday,
yeah,
for sure.
we got a ton of rain the past day and a half. And then it got really cold and snowed some this morning, and then it's supposed to be like 50 for Christmas again.
Great. Love it.
Um, so what I also wanted to touch on is your role within Modern Craftsman, because a lot of times I don't feel that, like, right, we can acknowledge you as a producer. And yeah, like you're saying, I edit this podcast, you create the clips, but there's a lot behind the scenes that you handle and take care of that I don't think a lot of people see. And when I think Modern Craftsman podcast, I always think of it as like a three-way partnership where it's Nick and myself and you, like Nick and myself being quote unquote the talent, and then you handling a lot of the back end. And there's like other help within that, but there's a lot that you handle Modern Craftsman that you are overseeing that I think a lot of people don't truly understand or appreciate. And I wanted to dig into like what that looks like for you, because your job as producer is not just physically producing the podcast. Like, what else do you help with?
Yes, I guess I'll start with an example. This time, it was around this time last year. It was between Christmas and New Year's. I'm constantly thinking about NS Builders and Modern Craftsman, and to some extent, the other podcasts as well. But you guys kind of hold the majority of the space in my head. I'm like, what we needed. The thought came to me like, you and Nick are great together, and it's great with the guests, but you both have a lot more to offer in addition to that. So I came to you with midweeks, like, hey, would you be willing? I think it started as a blog. I'm like, hey, would you
Yeah.
be willing to, write a blog once a week, and then on top of that, maybe do a podcast reflecting on the blog and that sort of thing. And so it was dependent on you wanting to do it, which you did, and obviously 47 episodes later, it's I think it's been a big success. We have to promote the blog better and get people a little more excited about that next year. But the midweek podcast, you added a whole other podcast to your schedule. So I come with ideas like that. Um, I suggest all of my ideas are suggestions, right? It's up to you and Nick to take my advice or tell me to shut up. As I usually say that in my messages, like if
Yeah.
I'm
I
if
mean,
I'm stepping
Nick
over a
generally
line,
says yes to everything.
right? Well, I came to him with the same idea for midweeks. So the idea was for you to both have a midweek, and it was not in the cards this year for Nick. I think eventually we'll get there. Because he used to have the Nick Schiffer podcast, which did very well. But it fell off kind of around the time we launched Motif and Materia. So there's probably a coincidence there. Um, but I'm always making guest suggestions, and I'm always trying to think of different ways to get the podcast in front of people. Like, hey, is there a way we can, I don't know, you know, collaborate with someone? Or I'm always constantly throwing ideas at you guys. I try not to go crazy, like not every idea that pops in my head, but if I keep coming back to an idea for a week, then I'm like, okay, I should probably share that. It's stuck with me that long.
Yeah.
And if it falls out of my head, it probably wasn't that good of an idea anyway.
Yeah, so like a lot of the brainchild behind Modern Craftsman and which direction the podcast goes, and guest suggestions end up coming through you. And then I also feel like you're responsible for overseeing the brand as a whole, even with, we have Drew and those guys who are doing all of our branding and our pencils and our shirts, and you're like always engaged with that. If merch is getting shipped out, if there's issues, you're handling all of that, where it's like you're overseeing the whole Modern Craftsman brand and probably doing the most amount of work on that. And then I'll show up and record podcasts. I'll take my day for my stuff. Nick's, obviously a million things going on. Nick's showing up, sitting down for the podcast, but like you're definitely putting most of the legwork into the podcast, which is why when I look at this as like a partnership and everything else, it's thirds like you, but I don't think that you get much of the credit for any of that just because you're behind the scenes. And like it's like, oh, he's a producer, but I think that you own a lot more and you have a lot more stake in it. than just being the producer of the podcast.
I appreciate that, and yeah, I mean, uh, it's thirds because at the end of the day, if in a hypothetical world we split paths, the podcast still lives on with you guys and whoever takes my position. But yeah, I tried whenever I commit to something, uh, I'm gonna give it my all, right? I'm gonna give you what I got, and that's how I've always felt about this podcast. Um, Coming on back in I think Oc October 2018, I believe. The Red Sox were en route to winning the World Series that year.
Damn it.
Yeah, sorry, Phillies. Disappointing year, my
No, I'm
friend.
fine with the Red Sox. I don't like the
I
Yankees.
Yeah, I don't have any hatred towards the Phillies. I very much dislike the Yankees. The only Philly team I just the Eagles, you know.
Yeah, I'm not a huge football
I'm
fans.
not a big Eagles fan, but
I was watching the game. Like, I'm probably gonna get so much hate for this. I don't watch a lot of football, but ever since Taylor Swift came into like the NFL, my wife and like kids
of
are into
course,
football now.
of course.
So like Kelsey's brothers on the Eagles, so like the girls
Yeah,
will watch the Eagles game, and the neighbor next door, their kids like love football. So we've been watching some, and I just like everyone loves this team so much, and I'm like they always look flat, they always look terrible. Their quarterback doesn't show like any sort of emotion ever, and it's like good or bad, which I guess in some ways is good, right? You're like super stoic and just this heavy brown, you don't react one way or another, but at the same time, it's like it just looks like you don't give a shit. Like you throw an interception and you don't make any sort there's no disappointment or anything, and I'm like, it just looks to me like he doesn't give a fuck all the time, and it's really a difficult team to get behind. But you're not gonna hurt my feelings because I'm not a huge Eagles fan. I'm not a huge football fan, to be honest.
yeah.
Um,
The Eagles were a machine last year, and they probably got robbed of the Super Bowl with some bad calls late in the game, late in the Super Bowl last year. So I feel for the Eagles, but they took Super Bowl 52
oh yeah,
the
yeah, that's right.
ring right off of Brady's finger. So
You guys had enough.
I know it's hard to complain, but we were right there. Um,
Yeah, I do recall that.
the Patriots just they scored a lot of points, but it just felt like you just said, they just didn't show up to that game, or at least the defense didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a long time ago. Brady's retired. Our window is closed for a good long time at this point.
Yeah, you had a good run.
We did.
So
Uh,
that's when you took
Nothing.
over the podcast, 2018?
Yeah, I remember because the Red Sox won the World Series that year, and we went to Kevin O'Connor's house.
Oh, yeah, 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 that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
That was a long time ago,
it was. Yep.
almost 6 years.
I showed up way before you guys because you guys got stuck in traffic. So I
Yeah,
was
because we drove up from New Jersey.
just hanging out with Kevin in his house
His dog.
and his dogs.
And then we
Uh,
drove home, and we were supposed to stay at, like Ryan and I drove home, we were supposed to stay in a hotel, and we got, like, halfway, and we're like, "We might as well just go all the way home." So he drove me home, and then he's, like, 2 hours north of me in New Jersey, so I think I took a nap on the way to his house. Then we got back to his house, he's like, "Do you wanna stay here?" And I was like, "No." So I drove an additional 2 hours home after that. I don't know what the hell we were thinking.
that was wild.
I guess that's
I don't
6.
know
I
how.
was 32 at that point.
That's a serious. I've made the drive. That's why I flew this year. When I flew out or I drove out to set up your studio. It's like a 6.5 hour drive, man.
Yeah, and, like, you
No
just don't
traffic.
yeah, and then you just, like you have to drive, and it even if the flying takes the same amount of time, it's just like you can be left to your own devices. You could sleep, you could be on
Right.
your phone, you could do it. You're not, like, constantly driving, worry about, "I have to pee. When am I gonna pull over? Is there gonna be traffic?" Nah,
I did the
I'm
math though. It takes less time. So
takes less
uh,
time to drive or fly.
to fly, way less.
Really?
Yeah, because When did I show up? 7, 8 in the morning, maybe? 7
Yeah.
in the morning? I woke up at 4. I'm at the airport 5. I'm on the plane. Like, it was so
Yeah,
slick.
that's
It was so
true.
slick. Yeah. And I did the math because 'cause I'm like, if it makes sense to drive, I'll drive, but I had to drive because I had all of the studio equipment the first time.
Yeah,
Um,
once I flew the first time, I was like, I don't know, it doesn't really make that much sense to drive, and, like, from a cost perspective, I don't know. I'd rather take a nap on a plane or, like, walk around the airport than be stuck in traffic from Northern New Jersey through Rhode Island and then hit it again once you get into Massachusetts. It
and
sucks.
it's a
It's a
quick.
terrible drive.
Yeah. When
It could
I
be
l
like 12 hours too. Like, it could go anywhere from, like, 5 to 12 hours.
Yeah. Leaving, I hit traffic on the George Washington, and I'm like, "I don't know if I'll do this again."
No, it
But
sucks.
we live in a highly congested area neck of the country. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I remember, even this past year where, like, obviously, I guess it was last year, the year before, we split ways with Johnny and everything else, and it's like we're at this crossroads, and not everyone knows what happened with that and what's going on behind the scenes and all of the feelings involved in, like, a partnership of 3, 4 people. There's a lot more than what's at face value, and I remember when all of that came to a head, and it's like, at this point, like, what do we do? Do we just close up shop? Do we call it a day? Is this
Mhm.
worth all of the aggravation, everything else? And, like, nobody really had a strong stance on anything but you, where you were like,
Huh.
"No, like, I've done too much. You guys have done too much. You have too much of a following to just, like, throw this out the window because of a shitty situation. Like, let's hop on board. Let's make some changes. Let's get moving in the right direction." And I feel as though that was, like, a turning point for us, and obviously we put things in place to make it better. I don't feel that we've reached our full potential just because you have your business, I have my business, Nick does, but, like, I feel as though we've done more this past year than we have in any prior year. And we're still trying to sort out and liquidate and dissolve what was Modern Craftsman before. So, like, it's not even done, but I feel like we've made such headway, that I am looking forward to next year. Even, like, with what's going on with me the past 6 months, I've just been, like, consumed by this job and the fact that we've still been able to move forward, still create content outside of Modern Craftsman, still do create content within Modern Craftsman, still record every week, not miss weeks, still record midweek, write a blog post every week. I'm like, if we can do that through this past year, we can definitely do that and, like, even make more of an impact and make it better moving forward. So for 2024, like, my goal really is to put more headspace to this. Like, I have a note thing in my phone of all the things that I'm supposed to get to, and, like, I put off shit that you've asked of me, that Nick's asked of me, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna devote some time to this, and really try and fulfill some of the ideas that you have and that I have moving forward, because I think that it is a good outlet for people, and there's really a ton of room for opportunity.
Yeah, to go back to that, I remember the conversation specifically when we kinda hit that crossroads, and I said something along the lines of, like, because when I started the podcast, I had never done a podcast. I'd listened to some, not even that many at that time, really. So, like, there was a huge learning curve for me, and the big joke back then was, get buy Tyler a mic. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Longtime listeners
Uh,
will appreciate that. Um, because way back, the quality was not
oh,
anywhere
yeah.
anywhere near what it's at now. And one of the things was, like, your mic was terrible.
Or that I just wasn't saying anything.
Oh, you're right. but I just said something along the lines like, "I've spent way too many nights, like, up all night working on this fucking podcast for us to
Yeah,
just pack it up. Like, let's let's just go for it." But,
and I
you know,
think
we
that
haven't
that's,
looked
like,
back,
a
you know?
lot of my point that people don't see behind the scenes with everything that goes into this, like, even for Nick and myself, it seems like, alright, so I'm devoting 1 day or a half a day a week to whatever I have to Modern Craftsman, but, like, I'm consumed by everything else the rest of the week, but this is a part of what you do and a big part of your life, and I think that you have a lot more stake in this than people realize. So, like, when we get all of these letters, questions, people supporting the podcast, like, even though you may not be acknowledged in that, our listeners should know that without Doug, none of this exists, like, not even a little bit, because it wouldn't even be a thing. Doors probably would have been closed, and that would have been it if it weren't for you. But then, like, you keep us accountable for everything. Catherine keeps us accountable for everything. Anna did a great job this past year keeping us accountable for everything. Like, there's so much that goes on the back end of things to stay relevant that Nick and I have no fucking clue what we're doing
Yeah.
and would, like, bomb without you guys.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate it. Um,
Um,
another thing that, like another thing that kinda comes to my mind is when we rebranded. That I guess that's almost 2 years ago now, isn't it?
yeah, it would have to be.
Um, well, maybe we didn't launch it 2 years ago, but, um, I was I was kind of caught in the dark. You and Nick had a conversation with Drew's team, you know, not I don't think unintentionally, but I don't think I was necessarily in the loop. So Drew sent the rebrand to us, and I open it and I'm like, What is this? Like,
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
going on here?" So
I
Drew's
forget what it even was.
so the what you guys had given Drew is like, "Hey, a complete rebrand," as in paying no homage to the original
Yeah,
logo, which I I kind of was the stick in the mud and like, "No, like, we need to pay some homage to the original logo," which I agreed, the original logo had to be updated and changed and all that. Just it it was it served its purpose, it needed to change. But and it wasn't that the logo that Drew and his team designed was bad, it was just not the Modern Craftsman.
yeah.
And this new logo, I had the exact opposite feeling. I'm in love with it. It's amazing. And as soon as they sent it, I'm like, "That's it." That's
What
the Modern
was the
Craftsman.
one that I feel like we were like, "Yeah, this would work for, like, an F1 team."
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one that was the complete rebrand.
Yeah,
It looked, yeah, like an F1 team or
like a tech
a
company.
tech company. Like, it would be, a great logo. It wasn't the logo, it was just it was the what it was representing to me.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, I feel outside of you 2, I'm the most kind of in tune with the brand, I guess,
Probably
and the visual
even
identity. Yeah,
inside of us 3 probably still are.
yeah, but
I feel like if there's any like, so there's, a Slack chain, there's multiple Slack chains, um, and it's like whenever we really need an answer, I'm just like, "Defer this to Doug," or, like, Doug won't say anything for the whole conversation, he's just like, "Fine, fine, fine," and then when there's something that he doesn't like, he'll just be like, "No," and you know if Doug's saying something that it's like, "Yeah, we gotta go with this." Like, he firmly believes in this. You're not one to just, like, harp on something for the sake or, like, combat, so or you're not like, "I'm gonna play devil's advocate." It's like, no, if you say no, it's a no. It's a non-negotiable no.
despite being on a podcast, I don't like the sound of my own voice, so I don't I don't do a lot of talking.
So where being now that you're doing all of these podcasts and, like, obviously, I'm sure that it's building up your experience and everything else, but Do you feel as though you're relatively in tune to, like, what's happening with the podcast industry and where it's heading if things are slowing down or anything like that?
So I wouldn't. I guess I'm in tune with it. I don't keep up too much with like what's necessarily popular in podcasting.
Yeah.
My fundamentals in content is just make it good, make it valuable, right? The bells and whistles only date your work. So like if there's a new trend where you're in video, it's always changing, like super fast cuts or super long takes. The only stuff that kind of survives a trend is the stuff that's really good. Whether you followed the trend or not, it doesn't matter, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Just make it valuable, make it true to you, whatever that looks like, and people either like it or they don't, and so on and so forth. That's kind of taken from Rick Rubin too.
Yeah.
He says something along the same lines, but it's so true. Like just make it good, make it valuable to you. If it's valuable to you, then
You put it out there and
I
it's up to
I,
everyone else.
I couldn't put it any better. Like that clip circulated the internet a million times now, but whenever I see it, I'm like, that's so true. That's so
Yeah.
true. Whenever you make something like, or at least in my, it's the reason I've left 2 jobs. When I make something that's not true to me, or like I'm just doing it to do it, it's not fulfilling, whether it's successful or not. Like it sucks. Like, I get fulfillment from making this podcast, videos for Nick, like, because I know there's value in them. And, I bring my expertise to the table and it's fulfilling, you know? I,
I've listened to a couple of podcasts with him, and he's like a very, very interesting human and
mm,
very smart, but it's crazy how well he's done, and like he's not like he can't play instruments.
yeah, that clip is, that clip is classic too, where it's like, do you have any musical ability? He's like, no,
Yeah. He's like, "Well, what do people pay you for?"
my,
Um,
my opinions, basically.
yeah. But I listened to a podcast with him on Rich Roll. He's his like wisdom um is really cool, especially when you like it looking at him and then
Yeah.
hearing what he's saying, it doesn't match. You feel like it shouldn't be coming out of him.
I would love to see, I doubt, maybe it exists, video footage of him in the 90s going to hip hop concerts in
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Like,
Dude.
I feel like that would be some some very interesting footage.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, to your point, or to your question, your original question, I think podcasts, or at least audio content, is the websites, like the wave of everyone having their own website through the 2000s.
Yeah.
That's what podcasting is going to be through the 2020s, like the next 6 years into the 30s. Um, I think everyone's going to have, whether it's a podcast or their story or something, is going to be in audio format on your website where people can listen to it when they're jogging in the car. Audio is probably the most versatile medium to get your
Yeah.
message across. Because like, there's a number of people listening to this right now, on a job site, maybe in their car, on a jog, walking their dog, whatever. It's probably very little people are watching the YouTube one.
Yeah, you can still consume and digest the content without having to like watch it.
Right.
Obviously if you like it's a different experience, you could watch it and listen at the same time, but I think that it definitely creates like I could lay in bed and listen to a podcast and not bother anyone. It would have no effect on anyone else in my life where it's like I want to watch something on TV. It's going to be a lot harder. I have to set time aside for it. So I think you're on to something there.
Yeah. And that could look, like I said, it could be if you make a 15, and this is free advice, people. This is free gold you can use right now. I haven't even talked to Nick about this, but I have been thinking about this and doing it for all
You
our
heard it here
websites.
first.
Heard it here first, folks. A 15-minute, 20-minute audio, just like encapsulated story. Like, hey, this is who we are. I'm the owner, or this is us. We're the co-owners, whatever that looks like. And talk about maybe a brief history, but more into like the core values and what you're bringing to value to your customer, or the product you bring to your customer, however that looks. I think that's going to be something that, in addition to a video is obviously just as important, but I think the audio is so flexible. Like, it allows people to just digest it that they might not necessarily have digested it, if they couldn't have listened to it between driving to the grocery store or something, right?
Yeah, and you don't need like a $10,000 audio or video setup to create good content. Like
Nope.
you can get set up with a decent microphone and recording and not have to invest that
Hey,
much money in it.
reach out to me. Got a very good price point on these audio stories I've been talking about here.
Yeah,
We'll
we're
set
gonna
you
start
guys up.
selling equipment.
Set you
Maybe
guys up real nice.
Modern Craftsman motif starter package for a podcast.
But and to expand on that idea, maybe you have 10 audio clips, and they're 10 minutes apiece, and the people who get through all 10 are probably someone who's going to be your customer, and like you could track that with an email. If they get through all 10, you send them an email like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah,
That's boom. This is gold. There's your value, people.
to to
An
to
hour and 5 minutes in, boom.
no to vet them. I also think just even having a podcast or prior to starting midweek, right, where I sit on and I speak to nobody for 30 minutes.
That's
And
tough. That's
it,
tough,
it
by the way. That's a shout out to you. That's tough to do.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. But I feel that really creates it teaches you how to speak, it teaches you how to converse with people, it teaches you how to get your points apart, how to be direct, and also, like, if you're a business owner and you have to speak to people for a living or you have to speak to customers, I think that it really teaches you how to properly speak and converse and hold a conversation with people, which a lot of younger people, like myself included, didn't know how to do. I still am not very comfortable just like it's crazy to think, right? I have a podcast and I have a podcast where I speak to myself, but like I don't really enjoy it's not my favorite thing to just speak to people. Like it's
Mm.
having a conversation with people about something deep and meaningful. Yeah, I can get down with that. But just like the topical bullshit, I can't stand. Or like when you start a podcast, it's like, oh, so where are you from? What college did you go? Like, I just can't stand it. I can't stand being out in public or out to dinner with somebody where it's like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'd rather just not talk to you. But having a podcast, listening to podcasts, listening to people speak and converse is I do feel it really develops your people skills and your conversational skills, and it teaches you how to properly communicate to customers, to vendors, to everyone in your life, which is missing these days. I mean, it's missing with text messages and email communication. Like people don't understand how to speak to other people, how to write properly, and it's a really valuable skill and asset that you can have that I feel I'm polishing every time that I spend time doing this.
100%. And that'll also come through in your on-camera presence too.
Yeah.
And the other thing, it's funny you mentioned this. I referenced it at the beginning of the podcast. I joined a networking group, and I am so, it's like 27 people in the group, and
Yeah.
once a month everybody meets in person, and everybody gets up and can speak for like 45 seconds or something.
Mhm.
There's so many people in the group. I guess it used to be a minute, but there's so many people they cut it to 45 seconds. I'm so terrible at it. And it's like, why? I've been on podcasts, like I'm good one on one, I think, or at least I'm a lot better than I used to be. but something about speaking live, like, in front of people, I just
Or where it feels as though it's a pitch.
yes. It is kind of like that. You are kind of pitching. Like, look, I just met all these people. I've only been a part of it for a couple weeks. So obviously with time, I think it's gonna get easier, but the last few weeks, I've just been, um, like, I just don't wanna do it, so that's why I know I have to do it, you know? So,
Yep.
uh, it's definitely been a learning experience, and I know the reality is no one else is like everyone else in that group has kinda gone through a similar thing where they probably sucked at it too at the beginning, and
Or
they were
feels the same way as they're doing it.
yeah, and they were nervous, and they're thinking like, "Oh, everybody thinks I'm an idiot." But it's like no one's thinking that. Everybody's
No.
just thinking about saying their stuff. They're not really probably, putting too much thought into what I'm saying, but it's
Yeah,
more
they
it's more
probably
about
wouldn't be there if they felt that way.
right. It's more about the one-on-one conversations you have with people before and after, honestly. Or at least I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that that definitely is the case, and I think that like, from my experience, I would rather have, like, a one-on-one conversation with somebody about something that I'm passionate about or something that they're passionate about or something that interests me than get up in front or speak to, like, 10 different people about just kinda BS or pitching what I do, where I feel as though I'm not being as authentic as I could be, where I just don't
Right.
feel like I'm being myself.
Right.
And that's like the struggle with being on camera, where it's like, all right, so you want me to pitch your product, but this isn't how I would speak, and this isn't what I would say. So now I feel like I'm like perpetually put on the spot for all of eternity while you're filming me with the lens.
Right.
And it's just easier to be like, hey, what are the points that we want to talk about here? Let me get comfortable. I don't want to just sit here and like introduce myself as Tyler Grace, owner of TRG Home Concepts. Let's get rolling, and then if we have to do the introductions, do them later once I'm settled in. I feel like it's similar with these meetings. It's like let's walk around and converse and kind of speak with each other and get loosened up before you stick us in the fucking front and be like, "Introduce yourself, Doug." It's
Right.
so weird.
Well, this group has been around for almost 30 years, so I'm bringing no ideas to the table.
Yeah.
I'm being very quiet and, you point and tell me what to do, I'm gonna do it, but,
How
um,
did you find them?
so it's I went to a golf event. Nick couldn't go, so I went in Nick's place, whoops.
Yeah.
Um, and at every not every hole, but most holes had a, like, sponsor. It was like a charity thing. Um, and one of the guys is a moving guy Nick's used in the past. I just I just started a conversation with him about, if he used video or if he's looking to do video. And long story short, we're in talks about doing some videos for him. But he reached out. He's like, "Hey, you want to come check out this networking group?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." So it was just a random thing, and I
Yeah.
joined. Yeah.
It's like most of the people have been in there for a while.
There's a handful of people that have been there a long time. Yeah.
And
So it
are they like, is there a cap on the amount of people that they have?
I don't think so. I think as the more people get in, it's just basically the less time you have to
Yeah.
speak, I guess.
It's
I
local to you
I
though?
it's in, Wellesley. So it's actually down the road from Nick's, spec.
Oh, okay.
It's right around the corner, and, it's only once a week we meet there or once a month. The rest is, Zoom. If we had to meet at that spot every week, I don't know if I would have done it.
No.
The Zoom makes it a lot more, um, desirable, I guess, to do it.
Yeah, and easier. I feel like that when I would do like talk therapy and they wanted to do it once a week, and I'm like, I'm so stressed out trying to make time for this once a week that it's completely negating everything
The
that this is
benefits.
supposed to be
Yeah.
doing for me. I'm like in a full anxious panic state because I have to leave work at this time to go see you once a week, and I'm like, I feel like this is defeating the purpose. Are you guys heading up to Maine for the holidays at all?
Yes. Yep. Um, we'll go see my family. We couldn't go home in Thanksgiving because we we were in contact with Talia's sister, and she had no symptoms, but she and her husband got COVID.
Oh,
And my grandmother, she'd been sick from August to literally like a week before Thanksgiving. Um, and so she had just gotten over. She kind of had a back and forth with like an pneumonia.
yeah,
So we didn't even want to. It'd been a few
chance it.
days and everything, but
Yeah.
we just didn't even want to bring that to the table.
So how much time are you gonna be able to get away for?
Few days. Talia's schedule. I kind of mimicked Nick's.
Yeah.
Between Christmas and New Year's, and then the week of 4th of July. Motif does the same kind of built-in time off, and then addition, we do the accrued. But yeah, we'll get a few days.
Do
She
you guys
doesn't
have
get
any
it.
plans while you're up there? Just hang.
No, no, we'll just hang. Maybe we'll go up to Freeport, LL Bean. I
Nice.
try to get up there once a year. Um,
How long does it take you to get from where you are now to your grandparents?
so 2.5 hours, 2 hours, depending.
That's not bad.
Yeah, the only traffic is getting out of Boston.
I bet.
Once you're out of Boston, you're golden.
Smooth sailing.
I mean,
When
literally.
when do you hope to be wrapped everything up so you can actually call it break?
I'd love to be done Friday at noon
Nice. Are
or
you guys gonna be
Thursday.
up there for Christmas, or are you staying down here for Christmas?
No, we'll be there for Christmas
Nice.
and Christmas Eve.
That's cool.
So sometimes what I've done, not since not with Van, but what I used to do is like I'd either spend Christmas morning here or in Maine and then drive vice versa. Whether I'd either drive back
Yeah.
here or drive down there.
Yeah,
But
that's what we end up doing. It's like Christmas. Everyone's closer, but we'll do Christmas with one side of the family. My parents are divorced, so Christmas with one side of the family, and then Christmas Eve with the other side of the family. And obviously, Rachel's parents mixed in. It gets very complicated and very difficult. Sometimes, like I just want to go away for the holidays and just do it with our family, and then I have to fight about who's going to see and bring what. And it's like this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. The one year we actually for Thanksgiving, Rachel, myself, and the 2 girls went up and rented, like, a last minute cottage up, on the Cape, just the 4 of us, and had, like, a very low-key Thanksgiving, and it was actually one of my favorite Thanksgivings ever. We went and saw, like, the lighting ceremony in P-Town where they lit the
oh,
tower.
that'd be pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was fun, but, I mean, it was by choice. It wasn't like we were sequestered. Um
Right.
well, I hope that you have a good holiday. I hope that you get some time off. I'm not going to add to your to-do list. Hopefully any more this year. I think I'm all
Yeah.
set. I think I have everything uploaded.
Don't
This will
even
this will
don't
be
even mention it.
uploaded. The only thing I do want to get from you at some point are some updated numbers on podcasts so I can start
Oh yeah.
doing my due diligence on my end, reaching out to people for the new year. So that's the only thing I want. It's the only thing I want from you.
That's real easy. I can get you that anytime.
Um, yeah, but I hope that you get some time off and enjoy it. I appreciate you hopping on here. I don't want to keep you too long. Looks like we're almost an hour and a half here.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope you enjoy the holiday. I do, like I said earlier, I appreciate everything that you do for us, for Nick, for myself. I know that Nick has had a difficult year. I've been crazy busy the past 6 months, but obviously it'd be tough to do a lot of what we do without your help. So it's definitely appreciated, and I want our listeners to know how much effort you put into this. So every thank you that comes in for Nick and myself and the time we put in, it's definitely at the minimum equally matched on your end.
Hey, appreciate it. And just to all those listening, definitely want to say, Motif Media is taking on new clients in and around the industry. If you got a podcast you're thinking about, but yeah, we do full service video production, podcast stuff, and a big shout out to you for the 47 episodes of midweek.
Thanks. Thanks, man. I was just thinking about that as I was entering the midweek portal where I was like, "Damn, that's a lot."
It's a lot, and accompanying blogs. So
Correct.
that's something to also that's a that's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done 47 for, like, myself, done 47 of anything. So that's
Yeah, I hadn't until now, but I was speaking on that podcast where it's like you get in the rhythm of things and it's sometimes it's a pain in the ass. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's like I don't have time for this week, or I'm trying to drum up an idea where it feels forced, and some weeks it just like is super easy, and it's like I don't know if I could do without this. So I think it's give and take, but I obviously enjoy it. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. It's a lot of work, and it wouldn't be worth it to me. So thanks. Yeah. So what? All right. If somebody wants to hire you, aside from Modern Craftsman, where do they go?
you can go to motifmedia.com. You can email me, Doug@motifmedia.com. You can go to our Instagram, Motif Media Co. We have the damn, I don't have my
What?
logo. I should have worn my logo.
Ah,
I was too on point with the
yeah.
Modern Craftsman merch. Um, but yeah, any of those avenues. You can get my
Sweet.
phone number off the website. But
Sweet. Well, now all you have left to do is edit this.
yep,
You know
go
how to get at
buy some pencils, buy some notebooks.
yeah, man.
I'm fulfilling those orders.
Hell yeah. That's Doug on the back end as well. All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you before Christmas, but I appreciate you hopping on here. You know how to get out of here?
Oh god, probably.
All right, Doug. Um, I like talking to Doug. I don't see him enough. It's nice when we get to hang out. We'll be hanging out at IBS. um, but Doug is the man behind the scenes for Modern Craftsman. He is truly responsible for a lot of what we do, and we would not be able to do any of this without him. He takes care of so much on the back end, takes care of all of the editing, setting us up, troubleshooting when we have issues, lining up guests, a lot of the stuff with Drew and all of the marketing team. Works with Catherine to do a lot of the back end stuff. So everyone, if you haven't had a chance to thank Doug and you're a listener and you support Modern Craftsman, go thank Doug.